Howdy folks, and welcome back to my World of Tanks replays with our mighty Jingles. Today, as you can see, here we are in the garage looking at the T1 Heavy, American Tier 5 heavy tank. Those of you who have followed my channel may have noticed, how can I put this, a certain, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, I may have made the occasional joke at the expense of T1 Heavy drivers in the past. No offence intended. But it's just that I don't know what it is about this tank. Every time I see somebody doing something particularly stupid in World of Tanks, and I don't just mean doing something stupid, like this kind of stupid you see in every game you play. I mean something ridiculously moronic. They're always driving a T1 Heavy. I don't make the rules. I didn't realise that there was a rule somewhere that said if you're an out-and-out mouth-breathing, window-licking retard, you have to drive a T1 Heavy at some point. Now, I'm not saying everybody who drives a T1 Heavy is an idiot, but I am saying that all the idiots at some point drove a T1 Heavy. Those are the rules. I don't make them up. You know, I just follow them. So, and funnily enough, here I am driving a T1 Heavy. I mean, the amount of just breathtaking ineptitude I have seen while playing this game, and we're talking special, you know, the kind of stupid that if being stupid was an Olympic sport, these guys could win gold medals, and they're always driving T1 heavy tanks. I cannot explain it. It is just the way it is. So it was with a certain sense of trepidation that I went and bought one of these myself, and curious to see whether or not the stupid was going to rub off onto me. And you know what? It's not a bad tank. I was expecting to hate it, and at first I did hate it. A couple of reasons for that. Stock, it's utter shit. It really is. But you know, that's the same of every stock tank in the game. Well, it's not strictly true. There are some tanks in the game that are pretty good stock. Most of them aren't. This is one of the ones that isn't. Also, I didn't spend gold on a 100% crew for this. I didn't spend gold on a 100% crew for my M6 either. I spent credits to get a 75% crew, and it really does. You know, there really is a difference between 100% and a 75% crew. Your crew doesn't really start getting good until they approach 85%. From 85% to 100%, you don't really notice that much of a difference, but between 75 and 85-ish, yeah, there's a difference. And that's certainly the case in the T1 Heavy as well. So combined with, you know, stock tank grind plus crew that wasn't very good, any tank's going to be bad. And my first few games in this thing, that definitely coloured my perceptions of it. But now that the crew's getting better and it's not stock anymore, and I have in fact now completely researched it and it has all the best upgrades, you know what? It isn't bad. So let's have a look at the stats. 660 hit points. Yeah, it's a reasonable amount of hit points. Let's compare it to the others. The French is obviously going to have less hit points. 600 hit points on a stock BDR. It'll get some more with the upgraded turret, but not that much more. We go to the Germans. Well, the Germans don't get a tier 5 heavy tank. Well, they do, but it's premium, and it's utter garbage, so we're not even going to look. And the Americans, the Russians, of course, get the KV-1. And the KV-1 stock has 590. It gets a little bit more with the upgraded turret, but it doesn't have as much health as the T1. So the T1 has the most health of the tier 5 heavy tanks. So that's a good start. Now, it's not called a T1 Heavy for no reason. It is a heavy tank, 58.62 tons in my setup. Potential maximum weight of 61.5, although, you know, there isn't equipment in the game you can fit that's going to make it that heavy. But, you know, there we go, 58, nearly 59 tons. However, it does have a good set of engine upgrades. Now, that comes with a but attached. Now, the stock engine is not good at all. It's a 58, nearly a 59 ton tank. With a 700 horsepower engine. I mean, that's not a bad engine, but it's a little bit weedy for a tank this heavy. The first engine upgrade will set you back a mere 5,300 experience, and it is an 825 horsepower engine. So that's an extra 125 horses under the bonnet, or under the hood if you're American. And it is an American tank, so yeah, we'll say under the hood. So that's pretty good, and it really does make a difference to the way the tank plays. However, now you don't need to upgrade to this engine because you can skip it completely and go straight to the M6 heavy tank at tier 6. But what I tend to do if I'm not going to just delete a tank just for the hell of it, is I have a look at the upgrades and I see what other tanks they're used on. And in this case, that engine is also used on the M6. So it's worth getting on the T1 so that it's available immediately when you're at tier 6 on the M6 heavy tank. However, it is a stonking 15,100 XP. Now the M6 is only 27,850, so you be the judge here. Is that worth extending the grind to the M6 by 50% longer just to unlock this thing, which it costs more than half the experience that it actually takes to get to the next tank? Well, yeah, I think it is. For two reasons. First, it means that you've got this available on the M6 straight away. There you go. It's the top engine on the M6 as well, so that's good news. But also because just that extra 100 horsepower really makes a big difference to the way this tank moves. And if you look at the speed limit, 35.4 kilometers per hour, with that, well, the speed limit's the same, the engine affects the acceleration. You have no problem reaching that top speed. No problem whatsoever. I mean, it is a big heavy tank. It doesn't go up hills well. You can say this of any heavy tank. But that 960 horsepower engine, I would definitely recommend you get for this thing. If you're even halfway serious about driving a T1 heavy tank, or even if you're not serious about driving one, but you do want to get an M6, get yourself that engine unlocked and get it on, because look at that. I mean, 825, 960, that's great. And that extra 150 horsepower makes a massive difference. And you'll be glad of it when you get the M6 heavy tank. Now, the traverse speed isn't great, 25 degrees per second, but, you know, again, we have to compare it to the other tier 5s, and if we go to Mother Russia and we have a look at the KV1 with the upgraded tracks, that's even worse, 20 degrees per second. So suddenly that 28 degrees isn't actually looking that bad. France, I would expect the BDR to be more mobile. Let's have a look. Is it? No, actually it isn't. So while we look at the raw stats of the T1 and see that 25 degrees traverse, oh, that's not good. Well, actually, it's the best traverse of any of the tier 5 heavy tanks. So again, nothing to complain about. We'll skip the armour and we'll move straight to the turret traverse. Now, it does have a pretty fast turret traverse, 30 degrees per second. That is pretty good news. The view range, yeah, 330 metres. This seems to be standard for tier 5 vehicles. It's nothing special. It gets the job done. Really crap signal range. That is appallingly bad. 395 meters. And actually, tell you what. Why don't we actually fit? Why don't we actually fit the upgraded radio? And suddenly, 480 meter signal range. You know what? That's still crap. So forget it. Yeah, the radio range is rubbish. But that's no surprise for any of the tier 5s. They all have crappy radio range. Now the armour, well, raw numbers, 83 at the front, 44 at the sides, 41 at the rear. Now considering this is a heavy tank, it has shockingly bad side and rear armour. The turret is a slightly better story, 102 at the front, which is really good. 83 at the side, 83 at the rear, and the sides and rear aren't that bad either. But, with that sort of armour profile, you generally want to be keeping your front pointed towards the enemy at all times. But 83 hull armour is alright, but it ain't great. And you're covered in weak spots. Weak spot here, weak spot there, little weak spot down here. And these are all the parts of the tank where it's easiest to penetrate in the first place. It's kind of a bit like the KV or the T150, because you've got this nice rounded bouncy sloped frontal lower glacis, if you like, even though it's not really the lower, there isn't really a lower glacis on this thing at all. You've just got this rounded bit at the front, kind of reminiscent of the front of a Sherman, and then the lower upper glacis is sloped back at an angle of 60 degrees there, and it is 83 millimeters thick, so you're going to find that's quite bouncy. But this bit up here, there's hardly any angle on it at all. And it's a very flat target, and that's where you want to be shooting from the front, a T1 Heavy, because you'll pretty much penetrate that every single time. Not only is it pretty flat, and it's only 83 millimeters thick, it's covered in weak spots. So this is practically guaranteed penetration city every time you shoot at the front of a T1 Heavy. Shooting at the front of the turret, not such a good idea. That's a reasonably good gun mantle, which does add additional extra protection to a turret that is already 102mm thick at the front and does have a little bit of backward sloping. The sides of the turret are 83mm thick, but shooting at them from the front, I mean, unless you're looking at that sort of angle, you're probably going to bounce, depending on the caliber of the gun that you're shooting at them. And weak spots at the top, well, there's this periscope here, but it's a very small target, and this hatch here is a very small target. I mean, look at that. You're going to be lucky to hit those. That, slightly easy to hit, but it's not as wide. That, much lower, harder to hit, but wider. So, shooting at one of these things from the front, just aim here. Sides and rear, pick your target. Shoot wherever you like. You're always going to go through. Sides and rear of this are definitely not heavy tank armour standard. And that brings us on to the guns. And you've got a choice of two. So, you've got the stock gun, the 75mm ML750, which is utter rubbish. And this is the first time you come across it. It's also available on the M6, unfortunately, and it is an appallingly bad gun. It has a reasonably good rate of fire. The penetration is average, the damage is average, the accuracy is crap. The aiming time is far too long for a 75mm gun, 2.3 seconds. It's a bad aiming time. It's not a terrible aiming time, but it definitely isn't good. Unfortunately, you're stuck with that gun until you've unlocked the turret, and that's going to cost you 2,650 XP, and then you get the 76mm M1A1 gun, which is basically the same gun as on the Sherman. The M6 uses it, the Sherman uses it, the Easy-8 uses it, the T20 uses it, the Pershing uses it, the Jumbo uses it, all the Americans use this gun, and it's a good gun. It's not really a heavy tank gun, but it gets the job done. Basically, it's the Sherman's gun, and it's not a terrible gun, but it really doesn't belong on a heavy tank. Unfortunately, that's the best gun you've got on this thing. You've only got a choice of two. The M7L50 is rubbish, so you're stuck with the M1A1. Now, the stats of the M1A1 they're better than the other 75mm gun. Well, than the 75mm gun, because this is a 76mm gun. They're better, but it's still not a great gun. Rate of fire is improved. It does have a good rate of fire. Certainly can't complain about that, but it's really a medium tank gun. The penetration is improved, and it's acceptable, 128mm. The damage is, well, technically it's improved, but it's still very average. The accuracy is still bad, but it's better than the 75mm, and it's still got that horrible 2.3 second aiming time. So what you end up with here is it's a really weird heavy tank. It certainly feels like a heavy tank when you're driving it. Despite the fact that it is relatively manoeuvrable and relatively fast with that 960 horsepower engine, it still handles like a heavy tank. You're never going to mistake this for a medium. It just handles as you'd expect a heavy tank to handle. But the armour isn't bad. It's certainly better than on the Sherman at Tier 5, because you damn well expect it to be. This is a heavy tank. And it's very important that you keep the front of this tank pointing towards the enemy at all times, because you show your sides and rear. Even if you try angling the sides and rear, well, you might get lucky and the tracks eat a couple of shots. And at like that sort of angle there, if a shot comes in, smacks the side, it's probably going to bounce. But anything like that, you're going to get penetrated from the side all the time, and from the rear, yeah, exactly the same. But angling your armour about that much, just like on the KV, it does work really well. You get a surprising amount of bounces from this thing if you just angle the armour slightly. And this is true of, I say this about every tank. Angling is the key to success. And the higher up the tiers you go, the more important it becomes, because the guns get more and more penetration, and the value of your actual armour thickness becomes less and less important. And it's never about the thickness of the armour, it's about the slope of the armour and how you present the angle of that slope towards the enemy guns that are going to be shooting at you. And the sooner you start learning those sort of skills, the more successful you're going to be, and the more fun you're going to have, because you're not going to get killed, and tanks that don't get killed win games. I know it all sounds so obvious when I put it like that. And so if you could start learning to angle your armour down here at Tier 5 in tanks like this and the KV, it really is going to help you, put you and sort you out in good stead for higher tiers. So, equipment. Well, if I was going to keep this tank, I'm not sure I am. Under normal circumstances, I think I probably would, because I'm growing to like it. However, I'm very short of money, and I have just unlocked a T28 prototype, and I'm going to need to buy the gun on that sooner rather than later, and then I'm about 14,000 XP away from the IS-7, and I still haven't bought the M103, and so, yeah, I'm probably going to sell it. Probably going to sell the M62 once I've done the review of that. We shall see. So I haven't really gone out and spent, any money on this at all. However, what equipment would you fit to a tank like this? It's basically a heavy tank from the front only, with a medium tank gun. Well, gun lane drive, 2.3 second aiming speed, pretty bad. Get a gun lane drive on it. You won't go wrong with the gun lane drive. But I'm kind of torn as to what else to get. Well, improved vents will help with the aiming again. So that's probably a good idea, but we're talking 600,000 credits here. Normally I say get yourself a tank gun rammer, but this thing's got such a fast rate of fire anyway that you find yourself shooting, it reloads, and you can't fire because you're still waiting for it to aim. And putting a gun lane drive on is going to help you with that, but putting a tank gun rammer on is going to make it worse. So, I don't know. But then again, it's a medium tank gun rammer. It's not a large caliber tank gun rammer, so it's only 200,000 credits. And if you've got the self-discipline to wait for it to shoot, wait for it to aim when you're shooting at long range and medium range, then you can use the medium caliber tank gun rammer at close range where you don't need to wait for it to aim, just to boost that rate of fire, because it already is a pretty good rate of fire anyway. So that might be worth it. Improve vents, not a terrible idea. Toolbox, kind of expensive, but you've got these big old tracks, and again, it's, do I use a repair kit to get the tracks up, or do I wait for the crew's repair skills? Yeah, it's one of those things. I would definitely say enhanced gun lane drive, and probably improved vents, maybe a medium caliber tank gun rammer, maybe a toolbox. As for the rest, nah, you don't want to be using anything else on this. Crew skills, well, my crew were only at 83%. However, it's a heavy tank. You cannot go wrong with repairs. Clutch braking, perhaps for the driver. 25 degrees is the best traverse of any of the tier 5 heavies, but it still isn't a very good traverse. Clutch braking wouldn't hurt. Off-road driving wouldn't hurt either. It is pretty mobile, surprisingly mobile for such a heavy tank, a lot like the T150. But that extra little bit of acceleration off-road never hurts. Other skills, well, I don't know, maybe snapshot on the gunner, because accuracy on that gun isn't great. And if you're at close quarters, fighting around a corner, and you absolutely definitely don't want the shot to miss, you want it to at least hit the target of the tank, the tank that's around the corner. Snapshot is probably not a bad idea, but I honestly believe repairs are just better. Well, I've been going on about how I've been coming to like this tank, so I figure it's about time I showed you a replay or two. So here we go. So this was one of my earlier games with the T1 Heavy. Now, I don't think I ever really played this thing stock. I can't honestly remember, but I know for a fact that I already had the M1A1 gun researched, because I have had the M4 Sherman since forever. So I don't think I ever really had to use that terrible 75mm gun that this thing gets. So just bear that in mind when watching the replays. Now, I don't have the top engine unlocked in this game, but it still doesn't have any problems reaching that top speed. And again, this is another one of those heavy tanks that, while it definitely does handle like a heavy, it's more mobile than you expect. So, here we are on Erlenberg, standard battle, which is unusual for this map. T-34, sensibly waiting for the heavy tank to go ahead, which is a promising sign. I might actually have some competent backup on this corner. And we're certainly not coming up here alone. I mean, there's a KV-1 there, Sherman Jumbo, and a T-34. And oh, there's an M8. good hit on him. And the jumbo finishes him off. What else have we got? T-34 coming around that side, but there's plenty of guys behind us can take care of him. I'm more concerned with what's in front of us. And it turns out there's quite a bit. Okay, there's a particularly stupid KV-1 driver. What does he think he's going to achieve sitting there? I have no idea. He's a fully upgraded KV-1 as well. He's got the 85mm gun. Seriously? Just sitting in the middle of the road. Around the... really? Well... I'm just glad he was on the other team. Now there's a Hetzer over there. No. Our KV-1 on the hilltop has just finished him off. Okay, it looks clear to proceed. And again, surprisingly mobile, even without the top engine. Now, I don't really know what's on this road ahead of me. So instead of just driving in a straight line down the road, especially when I cross this bridge where you're very vulnerable coming from one side of the map to the other, just to try to increase my effective frontal armour, I'm going to drive in a sort of zigzag pattern. Get off this bridge as fast as I can, and yeah, made it over. Enemy team really wasn't that good at all on this game, which, you know, makes a pleasant change from my team being not that good at all. Now most of their big guys are still in the match. It's tier 6 game. They've still got their 3001p, they've got both their BDRs, they still have a KV-1 T14, and that still can give me serious problems as well. As well as the Panzer IV. I mean, pretty much everything on the enemy team can give me serious problems, except for the Stern Panzer II. You really don't need to be afraid of tier 3 artillery in one of these tanks. So I know they have a heavy and a medium down there, but I'm more concerned about this hill over on my right. Whoa, Panzer III-4. Okay, probably AFK. Yep, he was AFK. And there are the two BDRs. Now, if these guys have got the 90mm guns, they can give me problems. I start shooting at this fella, but then I realise the other one is shooting at me. So I switch fire to him, and then the other one starts shooting at me as well. But notice I haven't actually taken any damage here, until now. So I've taken a number of hits there. And if you have a look, 2 penetrating hits. And yeah, even though I was angled around that corner, that meant that the part where these penetrated me here was actually pointing straight at him. I don't know how that one happened. That one there, bizarre. It's kind of weird sometimes because you look at that, that's a penetrating hit there, it's a penetrating hit there, and apparently a penetrating hit there. But damage panel says I've only taken 2 hits. Weird. Speed things up here slightly. As we're whittling them down one by one. And then there he is. KV-1's about to die. Panzer IV's the last remaining enemy tank any second now. Here we go. Back down to normal speed. Come out, wherever you are. We are prepared to discuss the terms of your surrender. Nah, only kidding. We nailed it back. There you go. So that was one of the first games that I played in the T1 Heavy, and just under 1000 XP, but a good amount of credits, and Sniper and Confederate, which was came as a pleasant surprise. 11 shots fired, 10 hit the target, hits received 4, 2 penetrated. So not a bad start. but it doesn't really give you the flavour of how this tank plays. So let's have another go. Okay, completely different environment. T1 Heavy in a street map. So we're here on Himmelsdorf, standard battle, all of that encounter rubbish, and I'm platooned up with Fox. So we're going to Heavy Tank Alley down the 8 line. Let's see what we can achieve here. And what I'm doing here is I've been practicing this. It's the old side scraping manoeuvre. You basically cover up the front of your tank, and all you show them to shoot at is your tracks. Unfortunately, I'm teased out slightly out of position by that Panzer 38T. Yeah. There's a T28 got himself stuck in the corner there, and he is spotting us. And we can't move further down that road with this T28 ready to pop out and shoot us in the ass. So I'm coming in here trying to see if I can get him, and I just can't. And full credit to that T28 driver. He knew exactly what he was doing. He did a good job in there. But he caused me some major problems here. Okay, so they've got at least one BDR at the other end of that road. He might have the 90mm gun. Okay, right, stop it here. I cannot go any further down the road than that with that T28 waiting to shoot me in the ass. But at the same time, I don't want to go around to get the T28 and give the BDR that's lurking down there free shots into my side. So I'm kind of stuck here for the moment until somebody kills that T28. However, I want to make sure I can kill the T28 if he comes out, but I don't want to be completely vulnerable to the BDR down at the other end of the road. So I've angled my armour and I'm waiting.
Track hit.
Now that was an artillery miss, and believe it or not, that was actually the BDR at the other end of the road that fired, and splash damage 24 from artillery, BDR only damaged my tracks. Straighten the angle out a little. There he is. He's got friends. And that T28 ain't going to come out. Somebody's about to kill him from the other side, which leaves me. Come on, kill that guy. There we go. There's Fox. Fox is starting to shoot him from the other side of the square. And the PDR can keep shooting me at this angle as much as he likes. You know, I'm not going anywhere anyway. You keep tracking me. I don't care. Come on guys, kill that T28 will you? And I'm taking hit after hit after hit after hit here, but the only thing they're doing is blowing my tracks up. And you know what? Two player that game. Tracks are back up. One of the BDRs is dead. Armour absorbs another hit from the Panzer S35. It'll take much to kill this guy. There's another bounce. Right, he's dead. But then, threat behind us. These are the guys that went over the hill. So, okay, no problem. We can deal with this. Now that Panzer IV does have a 75mm gun. The L70, good 75mm gun, so I'm going to pull the camera back again. And we hit him. Angular armour, straighten it out, he bounces. We reverse the angle.
We've just digged him. We're immobilized.
Where did he penetrate? Wait for the smoke to clear. Let's have a look. You know what? Hard to tell. Can't really say. Don't really know where that one went through. But with the penetration on that gun, I'm not surprised that he did get one shot through. Not a big deal. It's the only real hit we've taken. And we sit here, wait for our tracks to come back up. And then all we have left is a KV-1 on the corner and a Stug who's sitting in their base. So let's just skip to the end. And Fox did a pretty good game there, 4 kills. Only 1 for me. Damaged a couple, but more importantly, yeah, 14 shots fired, 11 at the target. Hits received, 14. One of those was artillery splash damage, and the only actual penetrating shot that did any damage to us was 1 hit from the Panzer IV with the L70 gun for 133. So that is basically at least 12 bounces. Just to show you that this thing is very, very good from the front if you angle the armour. However, we've had a better game than that. Okay, in this game, and this game I do have the top engine upgrade. And it does make a difference to the acceleration, it really does. But as I said, you know, it's not essential on this tank. The second engine is good enough, but you're probably going to want the top engine anyway, because you can fit it immediately to the M6, which uses the same engine at Tier 6. Anyway, Erlenberg, and it's an assault map, and I'm platooned up with Hawk and Fox in their Panzer IVs. So I'm backing up Hawk. Fox is going to the high ground on the right, and he's going to give us some overwatch fire, and we're steaming up to this corner. Going to see what trouble we can cause. Is that camp in the hill behind us? A Panzer III. Really? With that super accurate 50mm gun of yours? Really? Dear God. Okay. Best not to ask. Okay, artillery are taking an interest in the Stug and the T-34 we've just found. Oh, Arnie gets a good hit on the T-34. Doesn't seem to have hit the Stug. Okay, that Stug is my problem. He's around about... Whoa, what was that? Artillery. Yeah, 36 damage. Big deal. Tier 3 artillery. Really not a threat in a Tier 5 heavy tank.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
Okay, I'm a lot happier now I know that Stug's dead. That T-34's making a run for it.
We nailed
Okay,
it
that's a good
bad.
hit. And Hawk gets his first kill. Fox is caught up with us now, he's surging ahead. And over there we've got a Panzer IV and a T-28. Okay, not particularly worried by either of them. At more than 100 metres, even the Panzer IV's L70 gun, if you angle the hull of this thing properly, can have problems penetrating. It's not quite accurate enough to hit your weak spots consistently. There he is, and he doesn't even have that gun. He's got the L40 75mm at the most, and we've already bounced 1 shot. But let's not show them our hull.
Enemy armor is
Let's
hit.
just have our turret exposed, bounces another shot, and kiss your ass goodbye as well. T-28's managed to get into cover. Nope, Fox gets him. And there's all sorts of tanks just bouncing harmlessly off my turret here.
Punch right through their armor. Looks like that one went right through. Ricochet.
Bounced off the side of the B1 as he was turning, but
Enemy
we're getting
hit.
this one. Are we going to get him? Nope. Fox ninjas another one of my kills. You cheeky bastard. Oh no, Hawk's been killed. Okay, Panzer III's rushing ahead. It's a bit brave of him. With the Churchill there. So, you know, I'm trying to save this Panzer III's ass. As you can see, you know, with that engine upgrade, you have no problems whatsoever reaching your top speed in this thing. Not an essential upgrade, but I recommend you get it anyway.
We nailed it bad.
And I'm not really worried about a Churchill's
Punched right through.
6-pounder gun. Not in this thing, even though he did actually manage to penetrate. But 78 damage. And if you get behind a Churchill, they're dead meat. Okay, KV-1 ahead, he's hull down. I'm never going to hit him, but I can make it really hard for him to hit me, because I know how inaccurate his gun is. And while he's vainly trying to land a hit on me, he's getting pummeled. fact, you know, screw the KV-1. Let's get this Panzer IV. Ah, first shot misses. It is a very inaccurate gun, as you can see. Oh, when he gets a good hit on me, 112 damage. Finally we start hitting. Second shot bounces off our turret. He's the last one alive. Got him. And let's just have a quick look, although most of the markers have probably faded over time by now. But it looks like they only... Yeah, there we go. Let's zoom in a little. Bounce, 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 bounce. Penetrating hit. Penetrating hit. And another bounce, although that could have been a bounce that ricocheted off and penetrated, hard to tell. But how many hits did we take in that one? Oh, and I didn't realise, but I'm actually racking up capture points while I'm sitting here as well. So, just over 1,000 experience, nearly 30,000 credits. 8 hits received, bounced 5 shots. It's a really, really well armoured tank from the front. Sides and rear, forget it. Right, everybody will penetrate you. But with a little minimal bit of angling from the front, if they don't have accurate enough guns or they're not close enough to hit the weak spots on the front of the hull, people have serious problems penetrating one of these tanks. 3 kills, 3 damaged, 18 shots fired, 14 hit the target. Yeah, it's not a very accurate gun. And as you can see, when we're taking shots at that Panzer IV, at that sort of range, you expect half your shots to miss, but it reloads very, very quickly. It's kind of weird because it's a medium tank gun. It feels wrong on a heavy tank, but for some reason it just works on the T1 Heavy. I don't know why. So would I recommend the T1 Heavy? Well, after playing it, yeah, it's a good tank. I actually think I prefer this to the KV now. I know I'm going to get strung up from the nearest lamppost by all the Russian fanboys for saying that, but I do kind of like it. I don't know what it is about the tank, and I was very, very surprised. I expected to hate it, and I did hate it for the first few games until I got used to the weird sort of medium heavy tank hybrid that it is, in a completely different way to the way the KV-1S is. So yeah, the T1 Heavy is not a bad tank at all. I'm probably not going to keep it, because I need to sell some tanks to raise some money for M103s and IS-7s. But I'm certainly not sorry I bought it. It's not bad at all. And even with just a minimal... And really, the Tier 5 heavy tanks are where you really need to start learning how to play the game, if you're going to be serious about heavy tanks. Because as you get higher up the heavy tank line, the thickness of your armour becomes more and more irrelevant, because the penetration of the guns just keeps going up and up and up. And I say this in so many of my videos, but it's true in every one of them. It's not about the thickness of the armour. The thickness of the armour helps, but it's not going to save you. It's about the slope of the armour and how you angle that slope towards the guns that are firing at you. And as you can, hopefully, as you've seen from these clips, it's never too soon to learn how to start doing that. The amount of hits this thing can bounce from the front, if you just angle the armour, is phenomenal. A lot like the KV-1, a lot like the T150. It's a good tank. And that took me by surprise because of the amount of utter clowns I've seen driving these things. For some reason, idiots in T1 Heavies just always stick in my mind. But it's not fair to the tank, because it doesn't have a great gun, but it's well armoured and it's reasonably quick, and there's just something about it that I do like. So the T1 Heavy, yeah, I definitely recommend it. M6 review coming soon. It's a better tank than the T1 Heavy, in my opinion, so far. It gets a much better gun. It finally gets a proper heavy tank gun. And it's better armoured, and it's just as bouncy from the front. So expect that one to come soon. But that was the T1 Heavy review. I hope you enjoyed it. Catch you on the battlefield. Take care, and I'll see you next time.